Hello, willkommen back to the games. My name's Sona, I'm joined by Scoundrel, and that is a picture of somewhere in Germany. I'm going to assume it's Cologne. This, however, is the ESL Meisterschaft, and on stage we've got a guy and the burrito of doom. Now, Scoundrel, big performance there by Mysterious Monkeys. It was so big I had to say the word big 3 times. How do you feel, Eyes on You, get back into this matchup?
Honestly, it's going to come down to the draft phase, Sona. I think a lot of it just came down to being outpicked. You kind of had a big mismatch between Zani and Kanani, and that sounds hilarious to say, just, phonetically. And problem is Zani got locked out. Twisted Fate just can't duel 1v1 with the Cassiopeia. He didn't really have that much impact in lanes. Every time he did have an impact in lane, it usually traded 1-for-1 in some respect, or he lost a lot of summoners and was punished for it. I think this is the first blood. So actually, the first blood allowed using the plant, because obviously Kanani stayed so close to Zani that Kanani just couldn't get out. Zani was stuck there, dueling for that first blood in that case, and obviously Maokai flashed across the wall of Twisted Advance to secure it. So that was just a nice play on that respect. I think we're also
just did absolute work early game. This is the Twisted Fate counter gank, so it looked like this should have been a 2-for-0 really, as Kanani dies. Broken Blade, this is amazing. Twisted Advance onto the minion that's about to die, flashes away, forces Crossman to all in, and Abadaji is just able to take out Zani and Leandrid because they've already used everything trying to defend. Actually, Zani still had Dragon's Rage there, so perhaps could have made a play, but walked straight into the Petrifying Gaze.
I think the major point there was something that you pointed on quite nicely, is this is another... We'll talk about this on afterwards. I think this was potentially the early Twisted Fate gank down bot. But the major thing was there in that previous gank was that Twisted Fate actually flashed in onto, obviously, to kill Broken Blade. And that left both Leandrid and Zani in the lurch on low HP. And Twisted Fate wasn't there to, turn around, use a gold card and potentially turn onto the Cassiopeia. And that's what you saw there. Just because he committed so hard, it basically made both Leandrid and Zani free kills for the Cassiopeia, and that was one of the major sort of turnaround ganks. It's another one here where he got the triple kill, basically doing the same thing, the right roam at the right time. Cassiopeia definitely not being left open this game, to be honest, Sona.
No, as soon as that Cassio got ahead, as soon as Kanani got ahead on the Rek'Sai as well, it was almost impossible for them to do anything about it. Now, I agree with you. I think the Cassio is an important counter pick. I think it's something you need to deal with. Alongside that, I think there's quite a few picks that really you need to take away. I don't think Lee Sin's important enough. I think Elise perhaps makes a lot more sense, and we are going to get into picks and bans for the second game in just a second.
Yeah, we're just waiting to get into this pick and ban phase. It's going to be an interesting one, some different bans, and so maybe some different pick strategies coming out from these guys. Obviously, there is German Sona and German Scoundrel. And hi guys, how you doing?
What we've decided to do is not do voices anymore.
No, we're not going to do voices
When I say
anymore.
I've decided that is our case, because at the moment, actually, I'm tucking into some McChicken nuggets, boys.
I thought you just had lasagna.
Yeah, that was breakfast, man. This is lunch. You realise it is now 4 hours later than when I had my lasagna, right?
No, you had your lasagna 2 hours ago.
No, I had it this morning. It was between the first and second game of the first series, man.
Yeah, that was 1 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, you had it at 1 o'clock.
Well,
mate.
I need the protein. I'm a growing man.
You are a growing boy.
Just waiting on the teams to get ready. Hopefully we'll be set in just a couple of seconds' time. Apart from taking that Cassio away, do you expect it to be mostly the same bans as last game, Scoundrel?
Yeah, I'm maybe thinking that the Syndra might see some kind of play here. I mean, I was just surprised not to see Syndra picked up at all in that rotation between these two teams. But maybe just both mid laners don't think they are good enough to compete with her on a sort of a competitive level. We'll have to see, but I genuinely feel like Syndra should at some point be picked up by one of these teams. I definitely think Cassiopeia is going off the table this time round.
I totally agree. I think the Cassio ban is really important. I'm surprised we didn't see the Syndra, as you said. Vlad used to be known more as a counter pick to her, but we don't see a lot of Vlad. And already, Mysterious Monkey's taking away the Orianna, Poppy, and Rengar. And it's Zyra Karma Rise coming out from Eyes on You.
Okay, so Cassiopeia left open, available again, and not much changing on the total ban strategy, apart from the Zyra actually leaking in here for Eyes on You. They don't want to see that coming out. I think they thought that was too impactful last game. Karma banned out 2, so they don't want to allow first pick Karma from Mysterious Monkeys. Leaves open loads of different picks, though. Syndra, Rek'Sai, which Broken Blade could prioritize. We've seen a lot of teams prioritize the Rek'Sai early on here. Has proved to be fairly impactful. And you're not too worried about the Lee Sin, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Syndra or Rek'Sai on this first rotation.
Yeah, I think Rek'Sai makes a lot of sense as that first pick, but it is the Syndra. Mysterious Monkeys going for that straight up, and now eyes on you, working out how they're going to respond to this, because Syndra is just that incredible carry, and as you get later on into the game, she's able to lock people out pretty easily. You need quite a lot of range and quite a lot of engage as well from eyes on you.
The one thing that Syndra brings mostly is the ability to blow a target of high importance up. Also, if you get multiple orbs on the go, you can get a sort of a large team-wide stun that lasts for a significant portion of time. But she's not as impactful on a sort of a team fight basis as someone like Orianna, potentially Victor. She's far better in the smaller skirmishes and making those picks and picking out a key target before team fights sometimes even start. Also a bit of a lane bully, so just keep an eye on sort of what we end up seeing from Eyes on You in terms of response. Wouldn't be surprised to see one of the supports locked in with both Zyra and Karma down. You're looking towards Nami, Alistair, and Braum, but honestly, Nami seems to be up there at this point in time. But yeah, I think the bot lane lock-in was the sensible choice here for Eyes on You.
Yeah, I think the Caitlyn Janna is quite a defensive bot lane as well. As you say, Nami is there. Zyra's still... Well, no, Zyra's taken off the cards along with the Karma, so you're looking at that sort of second tier of supports, aren't you? Thresh is still really strong in my opinion. Alistair as well, we've seen play pretty effectively earlier on by Euronics, who did lose out to Iguana Esports. It's going to be the Rek'Sai lock here for Kanani. He was so powerful on that in the first game. What they pick up next, though, is a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of support's taken off the table here. Bard locked in. Wow. That's a surprising one. The Rek'Sai, like you said, made sense. Bard coming through, though, he is, if you are a proficient Bard player, an incredibly impactful support champion. Looks like QuickTime is pretty keen to continue his aggressive streak. Now, let's have a think about this rotation here. You could pick your jungler, which I think you will do because you usually save that last pick to try and counter your mid or top, and given that mid's already picked there, maybe it's probably better to force Mysterious Monkeys to pick their top so you can counter it. So you could probably pick mid and jungle on this rotation. I like the Victor a lot, and then Zani maybe gravitates towards the Lee Sin again. I mean, he probably just had a bit of a poor game, actually goes towards Hecarim, so that's a very sort of solid pick there. And that's the kind of what I expected. The mid and jungle was the obvious choice, because now you want to force a counter pick for your top lane, depending on what Mysterious Monkeys pick here.
Are there many counter picks top lane at the moment? We saw Kled played by the Euronics earlier on. That worked out okay for them. But if you pick someone like a Maokai, can you really counter pick that as such? Isn't he just going to be a strong tank up in the top lane?
You can pressure him, or you can look to take, for instance, the Fiora, which there was banned last time round. Fiora does quite well. You kind of resign yourself to a split push strategy. I think the way that you've built here, you probably need someone that has a role in a team fight situation, but you don't want to... If you have the opportunity to counterpick Sony, you don't want to allow your enemy to then counterpick you anyway, because if you picked your top on that rotation, like, they would have maybe been able to counterpick you. You don't want to give that chance up, so you go for that top lane pick on the last rotation here. And given what we've seen locked in Sona, which is the...
Yeah, Ezreal and Bard being locked in here, along with that Maokai, as you say.
Yeah.
That's an interesting pick, is because Maokai, in my opinion, is the strongest top lane at the moment, but Eyes on You, as you say, do have that top lane counter pick. So this is really the crux of the draft phase for Eyes on You, how they decide to work into that Maokai.
Yeah, so you could go towards something like a Kennen. You could maybe pick up the Kled if you were feeling sort of fairly, I guess, brave. The Trundle, again, could be useful. I don't think Leandro had as much impact with the Trundle as he would have liked. I think, like you said, it's difficult to find a true counter pick that can still remain relevant in a sort of team fight situation. Leandro probably ends up sort of maybe defaulting towards the Trundle or the Kennen here. It looks like it's going to be the Trundle, which makes a lot of sense.
Is actually the lock, man.
Oh, wow. Nautilus actually finally changed to it at the last moment. I was thinking Nautilus, but again, it's not a true counter pick. It kind of just, you kind of a wet handbag fight in the top lane. But Nautilus provides a little bit more CC. You have sort of basically a walking CC tank in the form of Nautilus. You kind of set up a lot of things for Caitlyn traps, can provide a huge amount of peel for your Victor and your Caitlyn. I like Nautilus a lot here.
Yeah, I think Nautilus, especially with Courage of the Colossus, can do a huge amount of work, you know. One of the champions with the most forms of CC, most crowd control on him, and it's all hard CC. Well, Riptide isn't hard, but the rest of it is hard CC, which allows him the ability just to lock down an opposition and get himself a huge amount of health back at the same time. So through that shielding, through the new masteries, Nautilus has become one of the best picks in the top lane.
Exactly. We talked about it. You said I remember you saying something along the lines of you like Maokai and Poppy almost, as top tier top laners. I think Nautilus is definitely in the mix of those three for using the sort of Courage of Colossus to the best of his ability. The problem is that, on that, I guess you didn't have to pick that earlier because you could have said, well, we either pick Maokai or Nautilus. But if you maybe wanted Maokai, like, if you're going to pick Nautilus, I'm honestly in the camp that if I'm going to pick either Nautilus or Maokai, I usually would pick Maokai because he has a little bit better sustain and also his engage is a little bit more foolproof. He's got the team-wide AoE sort of damage reduction as well. I probably would have been not too averse to just picking the Maokai there and then saying, well, you could pick Claire's, you could pick a counter pick, but how useful is that going to be in your team composition? I kind of think this was more along the lines of they couldn't think of a true counter pick that worked well in their composition, so they just ended up going for the Nautilus. And I feel like if you picking Nautilus, you probably could have picked Maokai and been happy with it.
I agree with you. I think we are on to Summoner's Rift, as we say. It's not Euronics, Eyes on You up against Mysterious Monkeys. I'm just going to make sure we get our sound levels correct. And Mysterious Monkeys 1 game away from securing their spot in that grand final up against Iguana Esports, who, in all honesty, have been a little bit of a surprise getting all the way through, beating out Euronics, which is the most surprising thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, but Mysterious Monkeys have just looked ridiculously good in their first game of this semi-final. There's a lot of work for Eyes on You to do to keep themselves in the running of this semi-final and get towards that final to face Iguana. Now, if you look at sort of the track record between Iguana and both of these teams, Iguana has been fairly good against Eyes on You. Mysterious Monkeys and Iguana, however, they've gone pretty toe-to-toe. I mean, if I sort of have a look and break this down on the sort of the levels of these cups, let's see how many times they've actually played Eyes on You, Iguana and Mysterious Monkeys. I think it'll be later on here. Nope.
You found any? Have they never played each other?
I'm looking. I can't see any areas where they've actually played each other. Nope.
Well, obviously they just haven't met up against each other. Mysterious Monkeys played against Euronics a huge amount, and they are gonna start.
They've not actually played each other. They've not actually played each other.
Well, they're playing each other today. At the moment, it's all in favour of Eyes on You. You might wonder what the numbers are on from this side. So those are the heart rates. So the one with a little squiggle above it, or an ECG trace, as you'd know it if you're part of the medical profession. QRS complex is actually what it is, but that is the resting heart rate. And then the other one.
That's a worrying QRS complex if that's a true QRS complex.
But it's not a true. Well, actually, that could be V3 would look a bit like that.
True, but then why would you use V3? I mean, why not use a classic QRS?
Well, you didn't say it had to be a specific QRS complex.
Okay, right. Well, let's devolve from sort of high level medical commentary and head towards high level.
Okay, so the one with the heart above it is their current heart rate, just to finish at that point. Talk to me a little bit about this Syndra Victor lane. Victor, we've seen quite a few times used as a counter pick to Syndra, but at the moment it looks like the Syndra's winning it out.
It's not really a counter pick in the sense that it's actually more of a lane that for the most part should be able to survive and farm from range. You know, as Syndra walks up to use her orbs, you can then just obviously use your death ray. We've got a gank in the top lane.
Kanani on towards Leandrid, in towards the top side. That's first blood. Broken Blade takes it. And Kanani once again with the early ganks doing absolute work for his team.
I mean, Kanani skips that blue buff entirely, took an early rotation to get level 3, is what you can do in the jungle. You don't have to take those big buffs anymore. Walks up with the twisted advance from the Nautilus, saw the Rek'Sai coming through, flashes immediately, the flash unburrow, easy as pie for Kanani, and it's an early lead being given over to Broken Blade here against Leandrid, and again Kanani showing that he is the one looking to exert pressure on this map.
And it's the difference between the two teams has always been Mysterious Monkeys work with their jungler just better. Now, Hecarim, of course, you want to farm up. You want to hit level 6. You want to get that Trinity Force. But really, to me, Zani needs to show up this game because otherwise, Mysterious Monkeys are just going to run away with it.
Yeah, I feel really odd about the Hecarim pick because you know that Kanani is super early impactful on this Rek'Sai. He's looking to, you know, pressure as much as physically possible. And you pick a Hecarim who really only has power in a counter gank or exploiting poor vision control from the enemy. So, you know, you're going to have Zani basically farming up and the rest of Mysterious Monkeys doing their best at just trying to survive against what Kanani can put down onto the map. So, yeah, the Hecarim pick is interesting for me.
Totally agree. It's a little bit odd. I apologize as well if you think that the screen's a little bit blurry. We're taking a feed from ESL, and so we have to just deal with what they've got. We can't, there's no filter or anything from it from our end. It's just the feed that we've got is a little bit blurry, so not really much we can do about that. Also, the resting heart rates were taken just before they got into the game, so that's probably why they're a little bit higher, because, you know, they'll still be stressed at the venue, even if they're not quite as stressed as perhaps they are in the middle of a gank.
So I want to also just note on the fact that these guys, they basically had this done just as they were about to enter onto stage. They're probably pretty nervous by that point anyway, so these resting heart rates are probably a little bit higher than you'd expect to see them in a fully relaxed scenario at home. And now their sort of currents are, you know, you're on stage, you're fighting in front of, you know, hundreds maybe people in this arena. It's probably a pretty nerve-wracking situation for some of these guys.
Oh, definitely a very nerve-wracking situation. I'd be very worried if that was the case. Kanani's trading onto Zani once again. Zani not yet at that level 6 mark. Just blast cone his way away. I love seeing that animation. I think it's very amusing to watch. But good trades as well from Kanani. And he's actually caught up in CS as well very quickly here. I thought Zani might have the advantage for a little while, but hasn't been able to keep that for very long. As it's already only 4 CS the distance between the two junglers.
Looks like Broken Blade took a little bit of an unfavourable trade, but Leandrid took way more damage in that response. He's also gone down double Dorans for this Nautilus too. I don't like that as much as the double Dorans coming out on the Maokai. And actually you can see here Broken Blade looking to continue to pressure Leandrid here. Even though Leandrid actually has more farm at this point in time than Broken Blade. Tower dive could be on the cards heading towards level 6, so I think Leandrid's going to have to maintain an element of careful approach to how he tries to farm under turret.
How do you approach it, though? That's the big question, because Leandrid's just getting pushed back by Broken Blade time and time again. That sap magic passive from the Maokai keeps him sustained, so he doesn't need to worry about sustain at all. And Nautilus, he clears okay. You know, you can just Riptide something out. You can put up that Titanic shield as well, Titan's Wrath, I believe it's called. But you will struggle against a Maokai who can continually harass you down.
Absolutely. We saw some wonderful cursor magic on the spectator screen there. So yeah, obviously the spectator cow has been interesting. We apologize, guys. It's out of our control. We are basically taking the feed from the venue, and this is Tournament Realm, so sometimes it gets left on directed camera. And everyone knows what directed camera does on Tournament Realm, and if you don't, it just goes a little bit crazy.
It goes crazy, basically. It goes mental. Because in normal spectator mode, it has a 3-minute sort of spectator delay in which it can, you know, algorithm the data, can work its magic on the data and work out exactly what it wants to see at what point. Whereas with Tournament Realm, you get straight on into the action, which is better for us because we get to watch the games quicker, but means that the camera work is diabolical.
So you're seeing Eyes on You here trying to do as much as possible to delay Ezreal's back. He tried to back roughly 2 minutes ago, probably a little bit earlier than that, and his main goal was to pick up that tier. Basically, Kekis has been really keen on stopping him doing that, trying to delay that tier as long as possible so it stacks up that much slower. You've probably delayed the tier stack now by 2 to 3 minutes, which is great for them. You know, you have that little bit extra time to work with when trying to deal with the later game Ezreal. But Ezreal now has managed to come back to lane with a Sheen and a tier, so his trade potential with those Mystic shots is going to be a lot higher than it was with just the tier versus sometimes the BF sword that you see coming out in that lane matchup as well.
Leandrid's still struggling. Here's Crossman as well. Going to see what they can do onto Broken Blade, but this might actually just be Crossman coming up to help. Broken Blade pops down the Maelstrom and will just be fine to back away. Kanani around the corner as well. Crossman just came up to help push out that wave. It's not something you commonly see a mid laner helping out their top lane, and they lose mid lane tower for this. This is the second time in 2 games that Mysterious Monkeys have taken that mid lane tower as first brick.
And again, a lot of it has come down to the pressure that Kanani is able to put out across the map. He actually just, I think, loses that red buff to Zani coming through with a smite because there was a ward there. And that's perfectly fine. Kanani's not going to be too stressed by that situation. He was basically doing it for the most part to help apply pressure to that mid lane by providing a distraction in the red side jungle. And now with that mid lane tower down, waves crashing into the tier 2, you're going to start to see some rotations come down towards this bot lane. Control ward will spot him out, however, as hard as Double G is trying to push here.
Here comes Abadarji, uses the ultimate, but that's unleashed power not going to be enough through the exhaust. Quick timer joined the fray as well as Double G. But Mysterious Monkeys not able to get the engage off they wanted. We'll just back away for now. They're still in a very strong position in this game. 2,000 gold ahead, only 10 minutes in.
A lot of people in chat talking about what your heart rate should be like with rigorous activity. And I can assure you that it varies wildly among everybody. There isn't really a hard, fast formula for that. It's actually, wow, Leandrid getting caught up here.
That he is. Broken Blade and Kanani should be able to take him down. We haven't got that twisted Maelstrom looking for the kill. They take him out. And Broken Blade with the second kill of the game. Maokai is getting pretty darn beefy to deal with.
And Sono will tell you a lot of it comes down to ethnicity, got a lot of genetic aspects to your heart rate as well as, you know, how fit you've been throughout your life. I wouldn't take that 220 minus age as a hard and fast rule. It can change quite rapidly between people. I know that my max heart rate...
how healthy you are as well. Like, I know people with a resting heart rate of 40 that I would count as... If you just use the general numbers, that is actually... what we call bradycardic, or having a slow heart rate. Zani jumps in onto Kani. He's not bradycardic at all. He's pretty tacky as he looks for the kill, but with no mana, just can't do anything. Even Leandrid not able to get anything out of this. Crossman's joined the fray though. Leandrid might look for a lockup here. Even with Crossman, they just don't get anything out of it. With the Syndra coming up as well. There's a depth charge onto Kanani. Here comes Abadarji off towards the backside of the fight. Broken Blade will be the first to fall. First kill. 4 eyes on you. Leandrid caught up as well. Crossman going to try and trade into this unleashed power onto Leandrid. Almost takes him down. One more auto from Abadarji is enough. And now Crossman has to retreat as well. The Mysterious Monkeys turn the fight around once again. It's a double for the Syndra as Abadarji cleans up shop.
That is Abadarji in a nutshell, roams so well to counteract that of Crossman, and he gets another double kill. It's like deja vu all over again, except for this time it's Syndra and not Cassiopeia. So good, and like you said, Zani, looking like he's struggling thus far on this Hecarim, has been performing poorly throughout. This is going to be the top lane tier 1 sacrificed as well. Nice turnaround by Mysterious Monkeys there. Someone in chat said, have you gone to some kind of medical school? Yes, both of us actually qualified as doctors.
And then we quit to become casters. Keka's caught out here. Double G trying to put the trades in. Lands the Mystic Shot as well, just pushing that Caitlyn back. You have to think that Zani just hasn't had the impact in this game that he would have wanted to. He gets forced back once again by Kanani. Kanani on this Rek'Sai is absolutely all over the map, and this is definitely going to be a contested pick if Mysterious Monkeys get through to the finals, because we saw Iguana Esports prioritizing that pick as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's going to be hotly contested between both Iguana and Mysterious Monkeys. If Mysterious Monkeys are the team to make it through, and at 4k gold ahead, they're certainly looking that they've given themselves a good shot at going 2-0 in this best of 3. It's going to be a clean sweep of their opposition. Eyes on You have kind of always, like you said, we talked about it earlier, been at the sidelines of the Meisterschaft teams. They've kind of never won a cup, but they've always been there or thereabouts in the final, never able to close it out. Feels like it's a little bit different to, it's not much different to what you're seeing here in the finals of the Meisterschaft on finals day either. They're so close, but could be beaten at one of the final hurdles.
Well, that's exactly what happened for Euronics as well, and you'd say they were probably the favourites coming into this tournament to win it out. Not able to do it this time as they got taken out by Iguana earlier on, and now Mysterious Monkeys are looking to close out this best of 3 and take us to those finals later on.
So in chat they said, how did you go from graduated doctors to casters? And someone said, we're not being sarcastic. Actually,
no, we are actually both doctors.
We are actually, we're not even joking.
I worked for a year in the NHS and I
didn't.
And then we both decided to be casters together.
So
we were
basically,
casting part-time while being at medical school.
So during medical school, I did casting for 3.5 years as a part-time job and also as a hobby at the start as well. And then realised I just liked it a lot more than being a doctor.
It's a lot more fun in all honesty.
And just, I don't know, just in general, I just enjoyed it way more. And if I give you one piece of advice, chat, it's if you're going to do medicine, make sure you enjoy it, because if you don't, it will be the worst thing you've ever done.
Yeah. Let's focus more on the game and less on the cast.
Sad boys.
Sad indeed. I don't know. I get paid to do something I love doing. So
Exactly. I get paid to do something I love doing. I get to interact with you beautiful people in Twitch chat. And what more could it be?
Well, pretty sure you could want quite a lot more, but not for the moment. Kanani still very strong on this Rek'Sai. Now with all those tier 1 turrets down, what is the next step for Mysterious Monkeys?
Again, just do more of what they were doing in the last game. They can force tower dives, especially with Syndra now as well. You know, you've got that ability to lock people up under tower. Cassiopeia probably provided that more flat damage over a sustained period, but you know, with the Syndra, you're able to get that scatter the weak down. You can make tower dives happen a little bit more readily if you catch someone out as well. Just continue to pressure these towers. You've got a very good siege. However, you are going into a fair amount of wave clear this time. Didn't make the same mistake from Eyes on You where you didn't have any wave clear whatsoever. They've actually got the Victor this time through, so they actually could, you know, in dire situations, just rely on him to clear waves into turret.
Victor very strong at clearing waves. Caitlyn as well, very good for those anti-sieges. She's just put a lot of traps down and catch people out. The Mysterious Monkeys are trying to work out exactly how they're going to close out this game, because at the moment it's not obvious, you know? They're looking for picks more than anything else, but picks obviously only comes out when you're playing that Lulu pick, so not going to be able to get any help from picks. We do have a kill on towards the Hecarim. I'm not controlling the camera. Please don't flame me, Twitch chat. I agree with the T-Tors.
Zani again just focused down here. Hasn't yet completed his Triforce. He's a little way off it. It's past 15 minutes into the game. Still not got his jungle item either. It's obviously, as Hecarim, you generally tend to see this formula. You will skip that jungle item in order to go towards a Triforce. I think Kekis just actually ended up flashing there. The cameraman unfortunately just missed it, but it's allowed a little bit more pressure to happen towards this turret, especially with Broken Blade now rotating down too. Again, the threat of the tower dive forcing Eyes on You back to a 6k gold lead opening up as well. And this is just classic Mysterious Monkeys right now. They played like this in the last game. They're playing like it once again, just continuously mounting that pressure on their opposition.
And a lot of it comes onto Abidaji's shoulders, you know. On the Cassio last game, he went 7-1. This game, he's 3-0 on this Syndra. And it just feels like he is the one making the big impactful plays, and Crossman cannot deal with him. He has no answer to the Syndra. We even saw Crossman going up towards the top lane to just try and help out his top laner for a bit, because he knew he couldn't face the Syndra.
I feel like this roaming stuff hasn't really worked out well for Crossman, because, to be honest, in every situation, Abidaji has been able to respond far better and far more readily than whatever Crossman's been able to throw at the table. Crossman probably needs to stick towards just farming and pushing that lane, and either relying on Abidaji to leave and just putting pressure onto the tier 1 when he does, or just allowing his lanes to do their thing. But the problem is he's been trying to compensate for how poorly Zani has been performing, and that has just resulted in 3-on-3s, which have always gone the way of Mysterious Monkeys. The Rift Herald is going to be taken. Kanani actually going to take it, Sonus. He's the one that wants to move through and continue to pressure turrets. Makes sense, because he seems to be setting up a lot of these tower dives.
It makes a lot of sense. He is the one doing the majority of the work in these fights. 9 times out of 10, it's Kanani who sets things up for them. So in the top lane, Broken Blade picking up the double kill earlier on, or the 2 kills, sorry, earlier on. Actually, you have to give credit to Abidaji, who's got all of his kills by himself. Broken Blade hooked in. Here's the damage, though, and look at the courage of the Colossus shield.
What was that?
Absolutely huge shield just comes onto him. No escape, man. Too easy.
That was so ridiculous. I mean, that courage, the class to twist and advance back under turret to give yourself the best opportunity to survive. That just seems counterintuitive to me, but I mean, all credit. Fantastic play coming out there from Broken Blade. Knew that he could get that shield off, and it worked out excellently for him. He had to flash over the wall to get out afterwards, obviously. Does limit his ability to flash engage, but it doesn't matter at this point in time. Everything is just being soaked up by Mysterious Monkeys. Nothing being left to pick off for Eyes on You. They've lost most of their jungle. You can see Zani here desperately trying to find something to cling on to in terms of a gold income, but just not going to happen.
Not happen yet. I mean, it's difficult in this sort of game to work out where you, like, what would you do for Callington? How do they win for Eyes on You? How do they...
What did you call them before?
For some reason I call them Callington, which is a town in England.
What?
I don't know why.
Do you live in that town?
No,
Son?
I live nowhere near that town. It was just running through my head for some reason.
Why did you have Callington in there?
I do not know.
Oh, just casual Callington team, you know.
I want to say as well, guys, we've been casting for a good while now. It's probably been, how many hours? We started at 10-ish. 11? Did we start at 11?
We started at 11.
It has only been about 4 hours or so, so not as long as I thought it was. But we are in the second game of this best of 3. Eyes on you, trying to work out exactly if there is a way back for them in this game. Doesn't look like it thus far, but you never know. They've caught out Kanani. Kanani bows away. Mysterious Monkeys get to safety.
Problem is that you can't unless you get every piece of CC landing from Leandra, it's very difficult to follow up on what Nautilus is setting up for you. Look at the damage!
Abadashi just melts them away. Here's the Tempered Fate as well. Doesn't catch anyone. And they will just back away for now. But this is the inhibitor turret being sieged on here by the Mysterious Monkeys. They've got a pretty easy way in if they want it. And they are definitely looking for it. They should be able to get at least one of these inhibitors. Gone down towards the bottom lane now. Will push Crossman back once again. Broken Blade, the front line goes in. There's the Twisted Advance. The tower is falling as Double G focuses it. And Abaдаshi focuses down the Janna. That's another kill. Kex caught out. Leandrin almost dead as well. Will die to Broken Blade, who gets himself a double. And that is the inhibitor tower going down alongside the inhibitor.
Yeah, forget the heart rates. There is no resuscitation for Eyes on You right now. They are well and truly into the floor. Unfortunately, they can't finish at 20 minutes, but they may have to settle for just 2 inhibitors, which I think most people would settle for at this point in the game.
Yeah, I think you'd be pretty happy if you can get an inhibitor 20 minutes in. There are Drakes and Barons and Objectives across the rest of the map, but at the moment all they want are these inhibitors. Zani jumps in. Look at the damage onto him though. Broken Blade takes him out. Abaдаshi was exhausted up, flash away by Yolopa. Did not want to get caught by that Syndra and will get himself out of the fight for now.
Yeah, they're looking to flank here with Leandrid. Broken Blade takes the brunt of it.
He does. Leandrid is the front line. Double D doing a lot of work. Will get stunned up by that Nautilus anchor. He will fall straight away as Abadashi comes in for the flank. Mysterious Monkeys going absolutely ape in this game. Keck is caught out as well. Will flash away. Kanani not going to be able to get too much of a chase off, as Kekis should be able to escape from the Rexa.
I feel like having these heart rate monitors just gives traditional media the chance to say goodbye.
Kekis is dead.
It gives traditional media the chance to say, look at these gamers, so unhealthy. You know, 140.
It's the stress of getting sniped by Double G though.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'd feel that kind of stress too. Wow. Just Mysterious Monkeys taking this up another gear here. Absolutely nowhere for these eyes to look but down into the floor, because that's where they've spent most of their time this game.
They've spent most of their time back at the fountain, in all honesty. Perhaps practicing their Greek skills with the amount of fountains that they have inhabited throughout this game. Mysterious Monkeys, just unstoppable. 13,000 gold up, 21 minutes in. There's hardly a way back you can imagine for Eyes on You. What they need is you know that Teemo, the Satan Teemo from Doombots? They need him on their team, and maybe they would stand a chance. Otherwise, I don't see them having any way of getting back into this matchup.
Unless you sacrifice 1 child, 3 lambs, and 2 papayas, it's not going to happen, mate.
Is it the papayas? That's where I've been going wrong.
Yeah, it's the papayas.
I've been using squash, but it's papaya instead.
It's papayas, yeah. It's an easy mistake to make, mate. I mean, who knows what Teemo enjoys, but numerous sort of experiments have led me to believe that papayas are actually what Teemo enjoys.
The best way of summoning the Teemo is through the papaya method, taught by Scoundrel. Baron is going to be taken here for Mysterious Monkey. Zani was looking for a steal, does have the Onslaught of Shadows, jumps in, 1,000 health on the Baron, but that is a dead horse, beaten to death like Eyes on You have been this game by Mysterious Monkeys. The Baron secured, and there's just no way back for Eyes on You as the Mysterious Monkeys start to close out this matchup.
You're going to need more than a tranquilizing dart for these monkeys at this point in time. They are...
How? Rest in peace.
I know, sorry. Anyway, they're going to be able to siege very readily with these Baron minions, able to soak up an entire Victor death ray at this point in time. This is going to be very easy for them with little to no wave play getting through these Baron minions for them to just sweep through these inhibitors. It's looking like it's a foregone conclusion here that Mysterious Monkeys will be the victors of this semi-final.
Not looking difficult for them at all. They catch out Leandrin. Here's the true shot barrage onto Kekkers, who was just broken down by Broken Blade. Zani will fall as well as the Yolopa. We saw Leandrin getting sniped off towards the back, as is Crossman. 19 kills to 1, not losing a dragon, not losing a turret, and not losing a game. Mysterious Monkeys will go through to the finals, winning out this best of 3 versus Eyes on You 2-0.
They just manage it in 30 seconds more quickly than their previous game. Fantastic performance from Mysterious Monkeys. They have been thoroughly impressive. They're going to go through to our finals versus Iguana Esports. What fantastic guys. Really just dominantly shoved Eyes on You out of the way. And I believe, Sona, it's that time again. We're going to have another interview at some point.
Yeah. You ready for the interview? It's going to be exciting. It's going to be one of the Mysterious Monkeys members. So we have to work out exactly how we're gonna break it down for the audience.
Got some handshakes, friendly handshakes. Oh, he didn't even notice, but now he has. Everybody friends, obviously, in this scene. They know each other, have played each other on a regular basis. Nice handshakes coming through from these guys. You know, competitive spirit. We love that. The hugs coming through as well. I think Eyes on You know that they were outclassed.
If they don't, they need to reevaluate what they think outclassed means. Because they were definitely outclassed.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to see, looking over the side, Leandrid. Obviously, we seen a lot of Leandrid in the UK scene. He's a nice guy. Shame to see him sort of, fortunately, fall to the wayside to a team that just looked so dominant on the day.
Yeah, it's just a difficult game, you know. Mysterious Monkeys were just the better team on the day, as you say. And we will have to see how they face up into Iguanas later on, because that's going to be a really close match. Iguanas were powerful up against Euronics, who probably were the favourites coming into this weekend. And now we're going to see Mysterious Monkeys face up into that Iguana squad.
Absolutely. And these are the casters. It's German Sona and German Scoundrel.
It's not us, man.
It's not us, unfortunately. I mean,
that's why it's not synced. If you worry about the syncs, go into your kitchen. There's one there. Probably one in your bathroom as well. And here we go, the interview stage. So I'm joined here by a member of the Mysterious Monkeys. Give me a round of applause for him, please. Now, member of Mysterious Monkeys whose name I do not know. How do you feel that the animal-based punnery in your name helps you as a team?
Yeah, he's asking the question, and I'm a little bit behind.
It's a long question. I apologize.
It's a long question. Yeah, he's still going for it. I mean, animal-based punnery, maybe talking about, you know, famous animals of 2016. I'll tell you what, we did channel our patronus. Can't mention his name on stream though, because in fear of never working on Overwatch again. But you know, we channeled him, and honestly, he gave us the strength that we needed.
That he did. He did. You know, he allowed us the opportunity to be all that we can be. I apologize sometimes for the monkeying around that we do in his name, but you just gotta not let your dreams be memes, man.
And he's saying now that, yeah, dreams weren't memes. We just, you know, we really went to town on these guys. 24 minutes wins. Yeah, just quick and easy.
Quick and easy indeed. Now, how do you feel you're going to face up into Iguana Esports? Are they your animal husbandry enemies? Are they your kryptonite?
Well, look, if you pit a monkey against an iguana, who's going to win, man? Like, come on, really? Like, are you even asking me that question? Monkey's just going to throw the iguana about. I mean, I'm pretty happy and chill.
Well, Mysterious Monkeys not so mysterious anymore, as they do just look quite dominant in their first games. They'll face up against Iguana next up. I do believe we'll have a short pause before we get into that. So we will be back into the action pretty soon. Actually, no, we got the Burrito of Doom back. Maxim Dekaltant and Burak Burrito of Doom Ozidilek. I hope I got those names right.
What do you think they're saying, Scoundrel? Dekaltant. Forgotten his last name already.
Kaldenkt, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, obviously these guys just having a little chat about the match. He's just saying, monkeys, man. These guys just they're wild.
They are. They can be absolutely animalistic when they want to be. It's definitely a worry. Oh, we're doing voices again. Oh, I forgot about the voices. So, yes, you guys make sure you are watching the ESL Meisterschaft. Guy in the middle is rubbing his hands together. He's expecting some hot chocolate. Let's have a look at these replays.
Oh, there is some serious replays going on here. This is where the first blood happened in the previous game that we've already seen, but that's fine. We could just go over this again. Yeah, super relevant. This is still the previous game. Yep, this is still that previous game. I think we're actually just watching the same replays that we watched before. Yeah.
Replays are replays, man. Replayception.
This is where...
Oh, Abadashi just did absolute work. Can you remember when Joe Miller accidentally cast a replay?
No.
I was in one of the IEMs, and they'd watched the fight. Joe Miller had just cast it, and then they put it back up as a replay. It might have been D-Man. It was one of the two. And he cast it again, and it was like halfway through, it was like, oh, wait, that was a replay. Okay, I apologize.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that was the triple kill that was in the first game. Definitely a relevant replay to the game that we just watched.
Well, basically...
Here we go.
Okay, so this is from the last game. And what we tend to see is just Eyes on You were never really able to capitalize on their rotations, and Abadashi just did absolute work in all of these fights. Like, takes out Leandrid, then gets Crossman. Crossman, in all honesty, did not have a good series, and nor did Zani. He really wasn't impactful at all in these games.
No, I think that's the biggest takeaway message here, that Zani has just been out-jungled by his opposing number Kanani on a regular basis. This was the team fight that sealed the deal here. Diving onto the turret, using that Maokai to the best of their ability. Even with that Nautilus in the fray, he was focused so heavily by Kanani early on, he just wasn't tanky enough to deal. I mean, look, by the end of the game, he didn't even have a tier 3 item. He hadn't even finished that Sunfire Cape, and that just shows you how far ahead Mysterious Monkeys were.
It just shows you don't need them, man. Who needs tier 3 items when you can just not get tier 3 items?
The Nautilus didn't have a tier 3 item. You do need them, otherwise you lose.
That's true. It's true. That's exactly what happened as well. Sorry, voices. Yes, so that's exactly what happened, Excoundrel, and I think the main thing we need to understand is...
Are you with the church on that?
There are times when you have a small bit of salt, and then there are times when you have a larger bit of salt, and you move the larger bits of salt away.
But for me, I love the salt. I live on salt. I literally made my entire career off diving into a salt pool and absorbing its salty goodness. I actually created Reynad. He was my creation. And now I'm coming in from salt on the sides. We're looking to pinpoint the salt. It's just NaCl everywhere. I love salt, 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 salt.
He's still talking. You have to keep going, man.
I thought we weren't doing voices anymore.
Definitely doing voices. Yes, we are. We're definitely doing the voices, Excoundrel. I don't understand why you thought we wouldn't be doing the voices. And if you were going to put your salt somewhere, where would you be putting your salt? That is the big question to me. Because you can kind of flow the salt over some other bits of salt and then bring it back to yourself. Or, if you're not doing that, what are you going to do?
Well, sometimes I like to just throw the salt down the middle.
Down the middle, you say? That's an incredible place to put the salt. So if you guys have any ideas about where your salt can go, you can find us on Twitter at ESL Meisterschaft. Or me and Excoundrel also on Twitter at Son of the Caster and at Excoundrel, I believe, are our names. This guy on the far right really looks like he's got an interesting point stroking his beard. Oh, yes, I do have a very interesting point for you to talk about. What I wanted to bring up was the fact that Twitter is actually the cesspool of salt, in all honesty. If you want the most salt, that's where you go. Don't you agree with me, guys? You just push them all to Twitter.
Anyway, I mean, I'm gonna stop with this hilarious commentary.
Yeah, probably should.
As hilarious as it is. And I think obviously the main thing to point out towards is going towards the next game, the Iguana versus Mysterious Monkeys games. We actually haven't seen these guys play before. We haven't seen these guys match up against each other, and it's going to be a really interesting sort of scenario to watch play out, because Mysterious Monkeys have looked dominant. They've been rising in terms of their their momentum and their skill level, but then Iguana themselves have done similar things. These are two teams that have come to their pinnacle their absolute pinnacle point on finals day. I mean, it's like the perfect time to have this happen.
It's definitely when you want it to be happening. And as you say, Iguana Esports, in my opinion, probably a slightly more meteoric rise. Mysterious Monkeys, although they've only been getting through to the second round consistently, have been facing up against Euronics Gaming, and they've consistently been pushing Euronics to the finals. Now, we're going to be back in just a couple of seconds with the next game of the series. The finals up next. Make sure you guys stay tuned.